We're going to have a great time here in what I call Nostalgia Paradise, as here we have a collection of old computers that my family has owned for a while. These two we've owned, these we've owned. However, there's still one more that's waiting to be part of the family, but however cannot be at the moment. So, why don't we take this time and introduce each of these computers. This is a Dell Vostro 1540. I don't know why this thing was on the webcam, but it shouldn't be. Anyway, this is a Dell Vostro 1540, which I assume is from 2012, either 2012 or 2011, because when I looked at the drivers for this, it said it expired in 2013. So this leads me to believe that this thing came out in 2011, because it had a 2-year manufacturer warranty at the time. And yes, it does come pre-installed with Windows 7, more specifically Windows 7 Professional, as you will see in just a moment. That is very nice. Yeah, that's the standard lock screen. However, there is a slight problem. First of all, these Control and Alt keys apparently don't work, but it's close enough. And second, this copy of Windows is connected to a domain. It is connected to a domain in which I do not know the password for, or any of them. What I intend on doing with this is I'm going to wipe the copy of Windows off, and I'm going to reinstall it with the factory image. We move on to this Lenovo ThinkPad Edge E545 from 2012. However, it does not have an operating system, because before this thing was given to me, it was remotely wiped. So I can launch Lenovo Diagnostics and do stuff with the system. However, there is no operating system. Because I have been unable to obtain its factory recovery media, I'm going to be using my standard copy of Windows 8.1, and then I'm going to install all the drivers from Lenovo. Next up here is a Dell Inspiron 5520, which is also either from 2012 or 2013, probably 2012 or 2011. This also does not have an operating system on it, because again, the hard drive was wiped. However, the other one of this that I tested, that one actually was upgraded to Windows 10. I'm assuming this must be the same case. This must be the same exact case. What does come with Windows 10, however, this HP, looks to be an HP computer. This has some administrator passwords on it. So this computer is, again, essentially connected to a domain. It's really not connected to a domain. However, the computer is actually connected to a domain of itself. The computer, it says this, is essentially connected to its own domain. This here is an Acer TravelMate 2303L. This one has a Celeron, and of course it has XP. However, unfortunately, either the hard drive is corrupted or it failed altogether. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to see if I can use a boot CD to see if I can repair the hard drive, get it back up and running. If not, then what I'll just do is I'll just use Windows to go on a USB drive. So this here is a Dell Inspiron 5755 computer that I got in 2015. Yeah, it's been on for so long the battery has completely depleted. This one actually does hold some history in me because I have actually used this computer as my main computer ever since I got it back in 2015. This has a 2 terabyte mechanical hard drive inside of it, and it's running off an AMD processor. Now, in 2020, that was when I got a new computer, and that's the one I still have to this day. However, that thing has been causing me a little bit of problems ever since. Like, here's one particular example. I'm sure you might have seen it during my Windows 11 upgrade live stream that I did. More particularly, like, if the battery, like around this area here, gets too hot, the system would end up crashing with a Clock Watchdog blue screen. And even after factory resetting the system, it wouldn't do anything. The only thing I saw was a Dell logo. Yeah, this computer is so slow, especially since it's been a long time since I ever touched it. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've touched it. Yeah, I got this in 2015, for Christmas of 2015 to be more exact. And it has been doing me good since then. Uh-oh. I think the battery is too depleted. It won't even turn on correctly anymore. I don't know what the problem is, but yeah, this computer is a little too old. But let's just see if we can get some life out of it. Well, while we try and see if we can get that running, let's move on to the Dell Latitude E6540 laptop that I assume is from 2013. Now, here's something weird I noticed about this particular machine. It has the Windows 8 and 8.1 logo, but this is in reality running Windows 7. I even noticed this too when I created recovery media for this on my desktop computer in my office. This isn't the factory installation because there is no Dell screen. However, everything does work fine. However, this is again connected to a domain, which again I do not know the password for. So I'm going to use that USB recovery stick to reset this computer back to the way it was when it came from the factory. And as far as I know, Windows 7 Professional was pre-installed with this system. So we're gonna have to find out for myself. All right, and yes, this computer is finally on. I mean, personally, it's been a long time since I've touched it, and I mean, this is like so old. I mean, I had actually had this for. I've had this for a long time, but of course I reduced it down when I was getting rid of it. But I know there's actually still a lot of old files on here that I actually do want to show off. I'm gonna wait for the Latitude to shut down before I pull the plug. Otherwise Windows Boot Manager is gonna get. Otherwise, Windows Boot Manager is gonna get mad and say that it didn't shut down correctly because the power adapter was pulled. But yeah, I'm assuming the last version that I left this on was like 20. It was either 20 H1 or H2. But regardless, it's an out-of-date version yet. Look at this. Yeah, the battery is so depleted that Windows 10 is just going to come up with this message out. But look at this. Yeah, I had a start menu completely jam-packed. Like look at all this stuff. There's folders of stuff and everything. It's incredible how much I have jam-packed onto that. Alright, and while this thing continues to load stuff, we will move on to this Compaq Presario 5300 computer from 2000 and... Yeah, it's going to go through the automatic configuration options after I plug it in. So that's what it's going to do twice before it actually starts loading the OS. Yeah, this computer was actually my mother's old system. And I did actually have a second. There was actually a second one that was used personally for me. But yeah, there is like so much old stuff on this system. I mean, yeah, these are like, there's like so much old stuff on here. Like, for instance, these shows that I did way before I did YouTube and all that stuff. Yeah, there's like a... Yeah, and Kaspersky knows how old this machine is. Again, all of these machines are going to have their original installations wiped, but I actually might want to keep this as an archive because there's been a whole ton of stuff that I've been going after, and it was all on that one machine. Let's go back to the Presario. Yeah, this thing is like so slow because this thing only has a 20 gig hard drive and it's running on 256 megs of RAM, which I believe is XP's minimum requirements. And I'm sure these requirements would be good to run Windows 2000. I wonder what this thing might look like running on 2000. But I will show you. Yeah, and she did have the classic theme set up, which you could do all the way up to Windows 7. And you could still do the classic start menu in XP and Vista, but however in 7 you would no longer be given that option. I mean, there is still a lot of old stuff on this machine. Like, for instance, look at all these Price is Right episodes. And somewhere on here are my first official EAS videos that I did. And a lot of the stuff from there was actually archived onto many sets of DVDs that I have. And in the meantime, we can tour around the system here and you can see what it's got. So it's got all of this stuff. Alright, let's try loading the properties again. It looks like it is actually loading something this time. The only stuff that I left on here is like the latest like the last seasons of these shows that I did in 2021 prior to the thing. But yeah, that's what happens when laptops like these are sitting unused for long periods of time. Their batteries are depleted so much that the only way these can work are on charger, that they can only work on the power. Here was season 7, but there was actually another particular thing I was looking for, and that is an episode of one particular show that I created. And it looks like the system properties are refusing to open, but I mean, it does make sense because this is because this does have 256 megs of RAM. Alright, if the properties are not going to show up, then I will tell you that this is running Service Pack 3 of Windows XP Home. And I'm not sure when this thing was last updated. But I want to see when that thing was last updated. Could be in this folder here. Have, what is it called? Season 7? I'm just gonna let the thumbnails load, but if I go into the settings, yeah, I only created this local account after I reset the system. Oh yeah, all the season premieres and finales are right here, so at least I have a complete archive of each of them. However, I know I already have the episode archived onto a DVD. Well, all of them, that is. Yeah, here we go. Windows XP Home Edition, Service Pack 3. No firewall is turned on. Yeah, like that, oh yeah, the slow refresh rate. It's not of the monitor, it's actually of the graphics card inside of the machine. But of course there's one of my favorite games that I would always go after on XP. And that would be 3D Pinball Space Cadet. Surprisingly enough, I actually did carry over the files from the game. So if pinball could only work on Windows XP, you better think again, because yes, you could actually download the pinball game files on the internet, and you can actually play the game as if you were running XP. And yes, it does work on 64-bit systems, but yeah, this is on 20H2, so this is a really, really old release. Look at that. It's got updates from 2021. That's how old the system is. Yeah, I'm not gonna spend the time playing pinball, but I mean, the battery is literally, oh yeah, there's the old people. It just feels so old. But here, I'll show you. I think it might go just like Vista, just like that HP computer with Vista. As soon as I pull the plug, yep, the battery is so depleted that as soon as I pull the plug, the computer just shuts right down. Yeah, that's how depleted the battery is on that thing. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how depleted the battery is for a 2015 machine. But at least it does make sense. But of course, we're not going to hear any of the pinball sounds that I find funny. But I can actually try the hidden test Easter egg. Look, as soon as I type hidden test, I can actually drag the pinball anywhere on the board. I can drag it into the hyperspace and the jackpot. And if I hold it down in this area long enough, it'll trigger the gravity well. Let's see what the high scores were for this game, because the last high score was like 3 million. Because 3 million points was actually the last high score on this game the last time it was played. And when I went into Control Panel, yeah, this keyboard is not original. This keyboard actually came with my Inspiron. I did actually use it when I got that computer brand new. However, it does actually work on this machine, which is surprising. But this is something weird I've noticed, because in the Control Panel, this has the easy access buttons page in the Control Panel. So I suppose when this machine was brand new, we don't have its original keyboard, but there is easy access buttons that you could program to. But here's a look at some of the other applications on the system. And when I was digging through the system for recovery for a recovery partition or recovery media creation. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any. So what I end up doing with all these computers is I'm going to end up reinstalling their original factory image. By the way, these computers have all been backed up. Everything on this computer has been backed up onto DVDs. But you know, it's glad I can still reminisce these machines, and I'll see what kind of capabilities I can put these through. Maybe see if I could try to put them through newer versions of Windows like Vista or 7. I don't think this thing isn't even going to make it to 10 at all. Surprised to see this thing is running 10, however, it's really, really slow. It could sometimes be because of the bloatware on the system, or it could be just the hardware in general. This computer by far is the fastest. Like all the Windows 7 machines, those are actually the fastest. The Vista machine upstairs is the fastest as well. And last, but certainly not least, is this HP P2-1334 desktop computer from 2012. It's got a AMD processor. It's got 4 gigs of RAM. Has a 500 gig hard drive inside of it. And this thing did come pre-installed with Windows 8. Now this computer essentially replaced the Compaq because of how slow it was. But yeah, this thing was actually much faster when this was brand new. And yes, this of course does have a password on it. And of course it does have a lot of personal items on the desktop, but everything on this machine was already backed up, so it is clear for what I plan to do with it next. So let me explain the story behind this machine. So when we got this machine brand new, this did come with Windows 8. No, it's not the updated 8.1. It came with the original Windows 8, the first Windows 8 that many people were complaining about. You know, the Metro UI, the Metro UI, and missing at the start button. Well, look at that, a Windows 10 out-of-box experience. No, I'm not going to go through that. Anyway, what I was going to say was that this thing came with the original Windows 8 pre-installed. That time does not look correct, because it surely doesn't look like it on my watch. Anyway, so then when the updated Windows 8.1 was released, Microsoft made it available for free through the Microsoft Store. So you could go into the Microsoft Store, download Windows 8.1. So it was essentially like a feature update for Windows 8, but it really kind of is. The only thing that it really updated was it brought back the start button. The start button was really the only thing that Windows 8 brought back. Yeah, that Windows 8.1 brought back. It still had the Metro UI and such, but then the other change is that it now by default launches to the desktop rather than the Metro UI start screen, as Microsoft called it at the time. It was only the latest OS for about 2 years, because then in 2015, that's when Microsoft released Windows 10. Try our free protection. Yeah, this computer has had Kaspersky antivirus on the system when this was still used. And you can see how old this was. This was last updated in February of 2021. And this was the feature update it was trying to go to, but we didn't get a chance to do it. So this is running Windows 10 1909. So, and then again it was 2015 and Microsoft had released Windows 10. And it was Christmas of that year, if you remember, that I got this. This came with the original release to manufacturing build of Windows 10, which is build 1511. and then updated that, or was it, no, it was 1507. 1507 was the release to manufacturing build. And then updated it to 1511, and essentially I was able to update this through every single version of Windows 10 that was ever released. And of course I was able to put it through 1511, the anniversary update, the creators update, the fall creators update, the April 2018 update, and then the October 2018 update, however, was actually the first of several updates that started to give me problems. These are the complete specs of the machine. Windows 10. Yeah, this was when it was last updated with another feature release. And this version lost support. This version of Windows 10 specifically lost support a couple of years ago. So I'm surprised that it hasn't gotten any message saying, hey, this version of Windows 10 you're running is no longer receiving updates. You need to update to a later version, or if your computer supports it, you can run Windows 11. Almost certainly this thing cannot run Windows 11, because most likely it does not even come close to meeting Microsoft's requirements for the new OS. Going back to this, the October 2018 update was actually one of the first updates where I had problems getting it installed. Like, here's one example. This has an HDMI port on the side, and I had it connected to an external monitor. A monitor kind of like this. However, the update would remain at 84% for about half an hour up to an hour. It would go to 85, go black, and then just fail altogether. It did this no matter how I tried it. I did it through Windows Update. It wouldn't do it. The Update Assistant, as it was called at the time, still the same result. And even the Media Creation tool provided the same result. However, when I pulled the HDMI cable out of the machine, it did update. So that was the particular problem. However, when that update was initially released, there was a major bug in the OS that Microsoft actually had to pull the update so they can address the bug and then re-release it. So the one I did install was the re-release. I waited until Microsoft patched the bug before they re-released the update. And then came 19H1. That one was actually a huge pain to install, because this time it wouldn't even get past 0. It wouldn't even get past 0, as far as I remember. So I had to do Windows Update. It did the same thing. So then my last resort for it was the Media Creation tool. I did that and it worked just fine. All the other updates that I put it through, 19H2 and 20H1, all did work correctly. And if I remember, this computer was upgraded to Windows 10 either around the anniversary update or the fall creators update. I don't know which one it was, but either way. But then there was also another thing. In 2016, when the anniversary update was released, Microsoft had released this, or had deployed this Get Windows 10 app to users running Windows 7, 8, and 8.1, in which they could upgrade to it for free for a limited time. However, it was their attempt to up their campaign, as Microsoft had essentially been forcing Windows 10 onto those machines. There was one video I saw where some guy was showing the upgrade process of his laptop to Windows 10, and then he goes on ranting how he needs Windows 7 for many of his business things. There was another video I saw on how to decline the free upgrade even after you're forced. In the video, it shows the license terms in the out-of-box experience, and then once they hit decline, it would revert back to the previous version. However, you will have 30 days after you make the switch if you want to go back to your previous operating system. So if it would be Windows 7, it would say Windows 7 or 8 or 8.1 and so on. However, if you are going to a newer feature update from a previous one, you would only get 10 days. But it's been more than 10 days, so unfortunately, this no longer has the option to do so. And the same is true now for Windows 11. You only get 10 days after you upgrade. So if you don't like Windows 11, then you can go back to 10. However, if it's been more than 10 days, then you're out of luck. But I did actually see a few videos and tweaks of how you could go back to Windows 10 or 11 after the 10 days. Like one example being using the Windows 10 Media Creation tool to reinstall Windows 10. However, what is the best advice is if you have 11, if the 10 days have passed and it has cleared the Windows.0 folder and you still want to go back to Windows 10, well, the only thing you would have to do is rely on your computer manufacturer's recovery media. Like, for instance, this machine here. This has been on Windows 10 for a while, and what I intend on doing with this is restoring it back to Windows 8 and creating recovery media for it should I need it in the future. This is actually a good thing because whatever experiments I put this through that might wipe the entire hard drive and the recovery partition, and then when I want to put the original factory installation back on the system, then I can just do that and end up restoring it, which we will do in a future episode. I should be able to create recovery media for it, but yeah, that's not the kind of behavior my disk drive does. But this thing is like kind of a pain to eject. You have to push the lid in order to close the disk drive, which is a big pain for a machine like this. And this doesn't have any speakers on it either, so I'm not going to get anything. And these databases were last updated in 2021, which was the last time we used it, but unfortunately not the case anymore. So what I will most likely do is I'll use the recovery manager built into Windows, and then, or rather, I'll use the recovery manager that was supplied by HP and use that to restore the system. We can also access it through the options. So if I hold down Shift and click Restart, it'll bring me directly to the options menu. So pretty much that's essentially it. Exit and continue to Windows 10 on Volume 4. There's 2 Windows 10s. That's what I find weird. But if I take through the troubleshoot menu, see more recovery options. So it looks like we cannot access the recovery manager from this menu, but we would be able to access it from within Windows. So that's essentially it for this computer, and that's it for the rest of them. So that's going to do it for this particular episode. So I want to take this time and show you each of the computers that I have collected, and some that I've owned for, or some of my family has owned for many, many years, and then I'm finally putting them to good use again for you all. So thanks for watching the first episode of Nostalgia Paradise. Can't wait to do more, and we will have another one for you very soon. So until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.